Good evening, Ryan Willard here, host of the Business of Architecture UK and director at TTHS Architects. And today I'm going to be talking about iterative processes and doing things again and again and again and again. And it's really, really interesting actually, because as a designer, as an architect, we know that the act of creating something, the act of designing a building has got to go through this process of iteration. And we like to imagine it as it being a straightforward linear thing where we go one idea to the next idea to the next idea to the next idea. And often when we architects describe how our building has come about and we will present it in a very linear fashion of A, B, C, D. But the reality of it is that design is more like a spiraling, chaotic, repetitive cycle where it feels like you're going around and around and around, and sometimes you end up revisiting the idea that you said was useless at the beginning of the process. But it's a kind of testing period. And when you're designing a building, it's very, very difficult to design something. I find it nearly impossible actually to be able to design something just straight out of my head and then bang, it's there on paper. It needs to go through that iteration where you put it all out, you get all the junk out, boom, it's there, and then you do it again, and you do it again. And the same I'm finding is with the iterative process in entrepreneurship. And this is why I think architects can make great, great entrepreneurs, is because we know this design process. We're great at it. We've learned to incubate ideas. We've begun to learn about creative synthesis and being able to sort of take that step back from lots of different ideas, the amount of different ideas and things that will come into play when you're bringing together a building, from the political to the cultural to the physical to the scientific to the financial to the economic, all these different disciplines and ideas that end up intersecting in a building is very, very useful way of thinking about business, because business needs to take into in terms of human beings and people and communication and marketing and sales and innovation and technology. And you need to be able to, like the architect, step back and make a plan and view something from above and allow things to go through this iterative process, or be able to get a kind of height or altitude to viewing what it is that you're doing and allow creative synthesis to happen and emerge naturally. And that happens through repetition. It happens through iteration. It happens through doing things again and again and again, but also having a guide in the sense where you know where you're going, you're focused on a particular outcome or an idea or a goal, and being receptive to the feedback that you're getting at each stage. So in business, it's, you often hear the dictums fail forward and fail forward as fast as you can. And a lot of entrepreneurs will talk about how they will go through maybe 8 or 9 different 10 ideas, and it's only one of them that works. But it's that one that works which will kind of pave the way and totally negate any other kind of failure. But you wouldn't have been able to get to there without all the different processes, all the different failures. And so there's a kind of emotional intelligence and an emotional way of dealing with this process, because it's very easy to get caught into a looping, iterative process and for it to feel like it's repetitive, to feel like it's not going anywhere, to feel like I'm stuck here yet again. This is kind of infuriating me. Why is nothing happening? I know I certainly experienced that, and it's to know that this is part of the process. This is part of the entrepreneurial process. It's part of the design process. And if we look at it in terms of like evolution and nature, we can see how things evolve incrementally. Like the master design, right? Real design is never like the greatest design from architects. We like to think about it. This is why, if I talk to somebody who's very hyper-religious, and they will say that the master designer came out and suddenly created everything. fucking rubbish, man. Like the most beautiful design in the universe is the universe, and the process of way those things have come about naturally through evolution is through things happening again and again and again and again, and there being these tiny incremental changes and something happening in this circular process that makes something else happen, and it comes out and it just emerges through. That is the type of design process that is the best process. And it's kind of, it requires, at each loop, it requires this sort of shift in thinking and being able to emotionally deal with the nature of it, because it can be so sort of wrapped up in the feeling of it not going anywhere and it being a failure. So that's my ramblings for this evening about, what was it about? Iterative processes.